Okay. Ready? Okay. I should look straight in the camera because I guess everybody see I was looking there and there. Good afternoon, everybody. And so first, let's do a prayer. Om no zenam darajenu rupe, taji jino jupayi, sange chodangidu. Kuna jase dacha, taji shu de me jepese denturugo, chambe jimbago tapanumba, kuna gumboji. Lumbodr bazara bedane, simjetam jalagong trapepe, yism zeba, trap trapalde, tenzam de beji. Devarship Gyala Cha Salo, Jambejano, Palindo Jeze, Cherezimo Gumbo Jimbepe, say Nibudu. Namgeni Bobajo Gunduzong, Ubeduji, Pegado Jena, Nubuda Water Nimai, Chaselinum Duju. Janjuzan Bagala Chazalo, Rinjin the Jota Jesrgania, Dujo Bazayon, Commander, Niladunda. Many Gazan Wanjero de Rinjan the Jagan Jen, Chudu Java Chujing Jama, the song. Trashila Mogela Cha, Solo Sambashimbo, the Jung Semebo, Migdon and Dangapo Yugo, so Bajabudan. Num this is a Hazakolo down to show Ladan, Dojazin, pay water rich. So sumness of Galik Trashi page, the Kawagela Cha, Solo, Dajet the Richawas. Getting a Warsawa Kunjine, the Debebe, some division to Trashi de Lepusum, so Parasho. Dajet in the Richawatsambala, getting a Warsawa Kunjine, the Debebe some. Asian group Tashi Dele Pusum Sobarsho, Dajeting the Richawatsambala, Gedan Yavarsawa Kunj, to the Bebe, some Asian group Tashi Dele Pusum so Parasho, whom Urgen Yugan Numjasa Pema Gazurdo. Yenze Jugan Udumye, Pema Juna Jesuda, Kurdo Kondo Mombekuru, Kiki Jesuda, to be Chinga to be Shizu, Guru Pema City, Urgen Yugan. Mema Gizardumbola is a Jugan Udumye, Pema Juna Jesuda, Kurdo Kondo Mombekuru, Kiki Jesuda, to be Chinga to be Shizu, Guru Pema City. Who would give you Gunubjaza Pema Gizardumbola is a Jugan Udumye, Pema Juna Jesuda, Kurdo Kondo Mombekuru, Kiki Jesuda. Shingel of Jeshizo solo Guru Pema Sidi whom Umam Bizaguru Pema Sidi, Umam Bizaguru Pema Sidi, Umam Bizaguru Pema Sidi, Umam Bizaguru Umam Bizaguru Pema Sidi, Umam Bizaguru Pema Sidi, Umam Bizaguru Pema Sidi, Umam Bizaguru Pema Sidi, Umam Bizaguru Umam Bizaguru Pema Sidi, Umam Bizaguru Pema Sidi whom Jumnanda Paro Gumboji in Jamayana Cha Salo Kungilu to Timiding in Damtaras, Chingi to which is Nika to what. Quando Zebazara Madamundu, Kizabet to Zokuna Puji, the Zayana to Jay and the song, to Trachero Numonino, the Gazur, Madamusiduri. Chingi Joseretanam, Denis Jesuit, the Indians, the Gazette, Becujan, the Junior, Tano Musijan, Pariana, the Omar of the North, Marpzano, Umar Pazano, the Marpzano, the Marpano, the Marpano, the Marpano, the Marpano, the Marpano, Umar Pazano, the Marpzano, the Marpzano, the Marpzanodi, Marpzanodi, Marpanodi, 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 Marpzanodi, Marpanodi, 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 Marpzanodi, Marpzanodi, Marpanodi, Marpzanodi, Kurgum the Dijish, Ubetano, Sharap, Return, Levazimage. Gumbo Jabayana Chasato, Concept of Dubum, choose a Tibardone, Gumbo Jameti, Kimeporia to watch, Concept of Dubum, choose a Tibardone, Gumbo Jameti, Kimeporia to watch, Concept of choose a Tibardone, Gumbo Jameti, Kimeporia to what I show. Jesus Pama to my kigano, Jida do it when I kept the switch. Jesus Pama to my cake, and Jida do it when I kept the switch. Jesus Pama to my cake, and Jida do it when I kept the soul. Jesus Pama to my cake, and Jida do it when I kept the soul. Jesus Pama to my cake, and Jida do it when I kept the switch. Jesus Pama to my Jidan Dunga Gune Kapsu, Jizan Pamaduma Kekano, Jidan Dunga Gune Kapsu, Jizan Pamaduma Kekano, Jidan Dunga Gune Kapsu, Jizan Pamaduma Kekano, Jidan Dunga Gune. Jizan Pamaduma Kekano, Jidan Dunga Gune Kapsu. So today is a very special day. It's the 6th lunar month, 4th day, which is the day 2 years ago His Holiness Dudjom Rinpoche incarnation. He came here and gave the teaching on this day. And today is the day that historical Buddha, after attaining enlightenment, Buddha turned the first wheel of Dharma, the Four Noble Truths. And the Four Noble Truths is the foundation of Buddha Dharma. Whether from the Hinayana practice, or whether it's Mahayana practice, Vajrayana practice, Mahamudra practice, Dzogchen teaching, the foundation is the Four Noble Truths, which historical Buddha. It's a great day. It's a great day that historical Buddha shown the light of the Dharma to us. And it's the fortune of all beings, the fortune of all of us, including today all the Dharma practitioners, that we are able to understand the Dharma is because of the great kindness of the historical Buddha. That after his enlightenment, if the Buddha hasn't given teaching, there will be no benefit to us. Not only Buddha gave the teaching, but we are following that path and hearing and reflecting and meditating and try to actualize the realization of the Dharma practice. So it's a great day. I would certainly say that Dharma is great at the beginning, since the Buddha first gave this teaching, the sermon of Four Noble Truths. Dharma is great in the middle. So many great masters in India, to Tibet, to Japan, China, so many great masters, scholars, enlightened siddhas came who have held the lineage and the wisdom of the Buddha and pass it on to us. So Dharma is great in the middle. And Dharma is great in the end as an individual practitioner who, as an individual, that by hearing the Dharma, by reflecting on the Dharma, and then by practicing the Dharma, we can achieve enlightenment. We can dispel the darkness of our mind. We can dispel the ignorance, all kinds of ignorance. The ignorance of not knowing cause and effect, and the ignorance of not knowing the nature of reality, the primordial wisdom, the union of wisdom and compassion, inseparable, that wisdom, clear light, whatever we may call that clear light, that realization will be achieved by individual who is practicing on the path. And the reason why a person or individual can achieve the realization, because we all have Buddha nature. We all have the seed of enlightenment, the basic goodness, the basic sanity, the awakened heart, that we all have the seed within us, and that is the cause to their realization. Without the seed of that Buddha nature, then it's impossible to achieve enlightenment. And what is that seed? That seed is wisdom and compassion, which has got three qualities: Kempa, Tsewa, Nupa in Tibetan, or all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-compassionate. Is a wisdom nature, that which resides in our mind, and we are trying to discover that. Only after discovery, then the Dharma is complete. Dharma is not complete if we didn't discover that wisdom within us. So in order to discover that within us, Buddha, through his great kindness, have shown so many different methods, such as the method of Theravadan teaching, Hinayana teaching. You know, the word Hinayana is not particularly kind for a practitioner of Theravadan. But then why this word is used is to remind us that a self-salvation, self-liberation, though it is great that you will be out of samsara as an individual, however, you have not taken along all other beings. Their enlightenment, their happiness is kind of abandoned, is kind of ignored, neglected. Therefore, on the Mahayana path, meaning a great awareness, a heroic mind or heroine mind, is an altruistic motivation that you don't forget other sentient beings, that you include all beings in your practice. And of course, there are three kinds of altruistic motivation in approaching altruistic mindset. And the altruistic mindset approaching in the three different ways. One is a king-like altruistic motivation. One is like shepherd-like altruistic motivation. And one is like the oar of a boat. You know, that everyone, crosses the river at the same time. The boatman, so to speak, the boatman altruistic motivation. And of course, the shepherd-like approach, the shepherd-like altruistic motivation is considered the most highest among those three kinds of altruistic motivation. That you care about the others before you care about yourself. But then in practicality, if you yourself are not liberated, you can't really benefit other beings. So the king-like motivation is more practicality in certain ways. The king, first of all, he or she, if he's a king or queen, first of all, the king or the queen, he or she wants to be powerful and conquer the lands and become the all-powerful. And then the king or the queen can benefit their subject, whatever they need. Only after they have achieved their goals, then they can help others. So that's more practical approach. However, in terms of the motivation, it is said that you should always have the concern for others' happiness more than yourself. That is why the shepherd-like attitude was important. And what makes the bodhicitta so special is the wisdom part. And wisdom means tremendous skillful mean coming out of that wisdom. Supposing you have compassion, but you lack wisdom, then what's the problem? If you don't have the wisdom, you will know how to solve a problem. Because good heart is not enough. It's like an old mother, a peasant's old mother who has a good heart, but she doesn't have much knowledge how to deal with life situation. For example, grandpa or grandma, good-hearted grandpa, good-hearted grandma, but they lack skill and knowledge and wisdom, for example. So, if there is just good heart and no wisdom, then you may see the problem, samsaric suffering happening, but then all you can do, what to do? You may end up saying, what to do? I don't know how to deal with it. You lack the skill because you don't have the wisdom. So therefore, wisdom is extremely important, the prajna in Sanskrit, or the wisdom in English, what we call the wisdom of Shunyata, or emptiness. So therefore, Buddha, through his tremendous kindness, shown us various different methods according to our mindset. There are people who are more individual, who are seeking their own happiness and salvation. Then there are people who have greater mind, who is trying to benefit oneself and others at the same time, which is the Mahayana principle. So there are many different levels of mindset. As it is said, inferior mindset, mediocre mindset, and superior mindset. Within inferior mindset, there is inferior, mediocre, inferior, superior. Then within mediocre, there are mediocre, inferior, mediocre, mediocre, superior. Then among superior, there's superior, inferior, superior, mediocre, superior, superior. And that's just general terms, but in reality, there can be infinite levels of mindset, because the conceptual and phenomena has no end to what we think and what we don't think. So according to that, there are people with incredible compassion, and then there are some with partial, and then some with very partial, and some with just a tiny bit of, like that. So therefore, because of so many different mindsets, many different level of teaching is needed, and many different teachings are required. And because of that nature, Buddhas give so many different level of teaching. It is said that 84,000 passions requires 84,000 teachings. And teachings not necessarily all the time come in the form of some spiritual texts that you read and you hear, but teaching can also happen sometimes in very unconventional method. There was a story of this great Dzogchen master. One day he was traveling with a student, and they came to a riverbank. And then they were both lying on the riverbank, and their master introduced the nature of their mind. The words he used at that time, he said, "Do you see the stars?" He said, "Yes, I see the stars." "Do you hear the barking sound of the dogs?" He says, "Yes, I hear the barking sound of the dogs." And after a few words like that, he realized enlightened mind. It sounds similar like some koan, but sometimes at the right moment, right time, the enlightened mind can be realized through the blessing of the master and then the devotion of the student. It all takes a click to realize that awareness. Then you may ask, how is that possible? Because the awareness of wisdom, or primordial awareness, whatever we call, the awareness is within your mind. It's not outside of your mind. Awakened mind is within your mind, not outside of your mind. So at that right moment, when there's a meeting of the teacher and student, and that situation take place, there's an awakening happen, because wisdom mind is within your mind. Awareness is within your mind. And through certain simple language, it doesn't sound any complicated language when you say, did you see the stars? Did you hear the dogs barking? That's not something you find in the regular text. But that's how it is sometimes. That's how it takes. And if you look at the Tilopa and Naropa, Tilopa grabbed Naropa from his shirt, and then hit his sandal on the forehead, and then when he woke up, he realized awakened mind. These are unconventional method. Profound realization is very simple, but at the same time, it's very difficult. Sometimes we go through reading texts, reflection, and meditation after meditation after meditation. Still we don't get realization. And what is the reason why it's difficult is to your own obscuration. The two kinds of obscuration, the gross defilement and the subtle defilement. The gross defilement based on ignorance and the notion of clinging, the grasping to all phenomena. We don't know how to just let go or allow it to be natural. We just don't know how to allow it to be natural. So when the tantric master, when the teacher at the right moment, once the obscurations are purified, then whether it's in the form of sign or whether it's in a form of language or whether it's in a form of meditation, the student achieves realization once the obscurations are purified. And what is obscuration? Obscuration is one's ignorance and grasping to phenomena, to every phenomena, inner phenomena, external phenomena. Inner phenomena is your ego. Out of that comes duality. Then you label yourself as identity of self, ego, and then you label external phenomena as you and me, duality. And then comes the whole, aggression and desire and wrap up in ignorance, like a bad dream. So all those are obscurations, mental obscurations. And we need to purify that obscuration. Only after purification of that obscuration, then can we realize our basic goodness. So now the method to purify that obscuration, Buddha gave, as I said, 84,000 teachings to pacify, to transmute those 84,000 passions and neuroses into wisdom. So then when we condense, the 84,000, then the teaching put into a basket, so to speak, Then there's the basket of, traditionally they are called the three basket. Dulwa Dode Ngompa in Tibetan. One is Vinaya, then the Sutra, and then the Abhidharma. Then, you can also say it's put into a basket of Hinayana, Mahayana, and Vajrayana. Of course, we can't, go 84,000 teaching. All those within that three approach of Hinayana, Mahayana, and Vajrayana in that basket, the entire method is introduced how to deal with our passion and neurosis. After all, the Dharma is working with our passion and neurosis and how to transform and transmute that. Only by transmuting that you can see the wisdom. The methods are different. Hinayana method is abandoning passions and neurosis. Mahayana is like transforming that. And then Tantra is like transmuting. I think if it's the right word, transmuting that. And then in the Dzogchen teaching, you see the primordial awareness, the ground of reality, or the body of reality, as it is, right now in one's nature, in this very moment in our mind. That's the introduction in the Dzogchen teaching. So therefore, reason why Buddha is kind, because no teacher who came in this world in the past have shown us that level of precision, how to deal with one's emotion and neurosis and afflictive emotion, and how we can transmute that ignorance. Lot of teachers came, they only show kindness and compassion is good, which is very wonderful, very special. But there's not much means, wisdom, how that can be eliminated, how that can be transmuted, and how that can be, liberated. There's not many teaching, except in Buddha's teaching. How Buddha precisely showed that being caught up in eternalism is also a downfall by logic and by realization. And then how wrong it is to fall into the extreme of nihilism by clear teaching of logic and by realization. And finally, Buddha said, combining the wisdom and compassion and wisdom in union is truly the ultimate body of reality, the basic goodness, awakened mind. Very, very clear. Now, how to achieve that? How do we get to that stage? Buddha divided the teachings into relative teaching and absolute teaching. How to work day to day, or let's say in our meditation state as well as post-meditation state. How to work with ourselves. Nyamshak and Jetop, Tibetan word is. Each one of them in the Hinayana level, how to deal with in meditation and post-meditation. In the Mahayana level, how to deal with meditation and post-meditation. Then in the Mundra level, then Dzogchen level. And finally to come to a stage where there is no separation of meditation and post-meditation, which is the highest level of Dzogchen. It's just like one cycle of day and night into primordial awareness. Right now, we seem to have some level of, glimpses or some level of realization happening during meditation practice. But having some confidence in post-meditation is extremely difficult, because as long as you have not really have a grounded, you haven't been grounded to the awareness of basic goodness, to the awakened mind, the mind will just simply flutter around like a paper. Wherever the wind comes, the paper flutters to the east, west, south, north, up, down, is taken by the wind. Same thing, until we have found a grounding to the mind, the awareness is not going to manifest, because we are too not grounded. Therefore, the practice of shamatha meditation becomes extremely important in all the different yanas, from the Hinayana to Mahayana to Mahamudra to Dzogchen. Shamatha meditation becomes very, very important. How to stabilize the mind. Only after you stabilize the mind, then you can have the pristine awakening called vipassana, extraordinary insight. Because you are calm and clear, you can see things. It's like a clear lake. You can, when there's no waves, then there's no muddy water, then it's very clear, and you can see the fishes and the water and the stones and, plants and everything in the lake very clearly. But when there's a storm and high waves and winds and water is murky, then you can't see anything. That's our mind right now. Our mind is a similar example right now. The mind is wavering constantly, it's never grounded. So therefore, you are going through the waves and muddy water and choppy things, and neither the boat is stable, nor you are stable. Everything is like choppy. That's how what we go through right now in day-to-day life. How do we bring this choppy mind into a stable mind? It's meditation. It's your Dharma practice. Whatever the method the teacher has shown you, you must begin from that. Whether it's Hinayana practice, Mahayana practice, Vajrayana practice, Diti practice, Dakini practice, Yidam practice, meditation practice, you must do that genuinely, and then you will achieve that state. And particularly when we look in the West, where people have to deal with a lot of intense, fast, materialism society, we need a stability to have the mind grounded. So from that point, I think meditation is extremely beneficial and helpful, that how you can deal with your life situation, wherever you are. So at some level of meditation, at least half an hour a day, I think crucially important to how we can bring sanity and happiness and joy and peace in our life. So that's one thing. So the practice of shamatha to vipassana, they are in all the different lineage. They are in Hinayana lineage, they are in the Mahayana path, Hinayana path, Mahayana path, Vajrayana path. The shamatha and the vipassana comes together. So now the two truths. The two truths, conventional truth and relative truth. All the teaching of Buddha can be put into these two baskets, into these two division: the conventional truth and the absolute truth or unconventional truth. Conventional truth, in one word, is the path of cause and effect. And unconventional truth is the path of going beyond cause and effect. If you read the life story of Milarepa, one time there was a debate with Milarepa and the Geshe, the scholar. The scholar always tried to bring, his level of mind, which is his level of logic. And he said the space is open, movable. And of course, space is open, we all know that. And then Milarepa make him not move at all through his power. Milarepa said space is unmovable, just trying to hit on his ego. He got so much pride in ego that he thinks he knows everything. And each time Milarepa showed his tremendous power, like space instead of being open is solid, and solid open. So Milarepa made all this manifestation, and it break the concept of, this is it, this is that, which is all falling into extreme of some kind. When you say this is nothingness, you fall into extreme of nothingness. When you say this is something, you fall into extreme of eternalism, which we all do day to day. And we are wrong in both sides. We miss the true nature, true reality. So somebody, when they miss true nature, they are called unnatural versus natural. So in some way, samsaric mind, the ignorant mind, the dualistic mind is unnatural. It's not a natural mind. Because it's not natural, there is always obstruction in that mind. There is the neurosis which comes in that mind, which is unnatural. Neurosis is unnatural. It blocks the very freedom and liberation and happiness which you're seeking, which is part of your basic goodness. It blocks all of them. So it's unnatural from that point of view, you can say. It blocks your basic goodness, neurosis. The ego blocks your basic goodness, your compassion. So it's unnatural. So at this point, we've been so used to unnatural that we think unnatural is natural and natural is unnatural, which is quite strange. I think the English word diabolical, something little strange now, gone a little crazy. We have gone a little crazy from our mind, from our path. Path is nothing other than mind. Your mind is the path. There's no Hinayana teaching beside your mind. A lesser yana or lesser vehicle is also your mind. The sense of selfishness is also your mind. The sense of greater awareness is also your mind. So when we are talking path, it doesn't mean outside there is someone, putting a red carpet or a white carpet for you to walk on it. It's basically, is this particular mind, this mind of yours is the path. There is no other path beside this path, beside this mind. So how you deepen yourself, then your minds get bigger, and of course you have to start from the Hinayana level. You have to start, the entire Hinayana teaching, when you sums it up, is called do not harm beings, period. You learn not to harm beings. That includes the entire Hinayana teaching. Then the entire Mahayana teaching you can sum up in one word, which is called learn to benefit being. When you learn to benefit being, naturally not harming is included in benefiting all being. So you see the lesser vehicle is naturally in the higher teaching, naturally included. So likewise, the lower teaching is included in the higher teaching. But the higher teaching is not included in the lower teaching. Lower teaching is included in the higher teaching. Nihilism is not included in eternalism. Between eternalism and nihilism, nihilism is the lowest level. It doesn't know cause and effect. Let's not talk about good karma. Nihilistic have no concept of good and bad. They see everything in phenomena as accidental. Due to pure incident, things happen. Nihilistic approach is pure incidents. No cause and effect, nothing. No past life, no future life, no good, no bad. It's just pure incidents. And there's nihilistic view. That's the lowest of all the views, because that will lead you to suffering and darkness. Then the nihilism, eternalist is a little better than nihilist, because eternalist, at least, there's a notion of good and bad, and so it's a little bit higher view than the nihilist view. Then eternalistic is also wrong, because as long as you hold on to something, you hold on to ego and grasping to phenomena. And as long as you hold to grasping to phenomena and ego, there is aggression and there is attachment. It's natural. And that is the cause of samsara. Samsara means cyclic existence. You're never free from the cyclic existence with that kind of mindset. After all, samsara is your mind, there's not outside. So you're trapped in that cycle of aggression and attachment, one way or another. Now the middle path is going beyond nihilism and eternalism. And that view is much deeper and much harder to realize. And when you compare to eternalism and nihilism, there's nothing profound and depth to that. It's very obvious and simple. Most of the nihilistic doesn't even have much stories to tell. Eternalistic make a lot of stories, hopes, given false hope and given promises and like that. There's the eternalism. Eternalism is mostly about approach with that kind of giving hopes. Of course, giving hope is important, but you have to do it genuinely. For example, when Buddha, today, on this day, when Buddha gave the Four Noble Truths, he gave the hope to people that how they can actually work with their mind and be free from samsara. And what did he say? You have faith in me and I'm going to free you, everything will be taken care. He didn't say that. His was a very profound and noble truth. And he said, understand suffering. Recognize suffering. That was the first noble. Noble means something genuine, speech, very direct. And that very direct, genuine speech was, he said, understand the suffering or realize, recognize suffering. Only through, once you recognize suffering, you see that there is suffering, then there's a cause to that. Suffering didn't came out without cause. It wasn't pure incident, it happened without any cause. Or it wasn't just made by someone, which would be impossible. If, according to the eternalist, if the question is put forth, whether it's in the number of eternalistic world religion, according to the eternalistic teaching, the Creator creates everything. All creation is created by the Creator. If all creation is created by the Creator, then that will include, everything, good and bad and everything. So then, I'm sure every tradition has a story to tell. Then let's ask question. For example, let's examine. Nothing can escape the Creator. Nothing will work without the permission of the Creator, in other words. If nothing can happen without the permission of the Creator, then who created the demon or Satan or Apple or Adam and Eve or whatever. It has to be with permission of the Creator. So you see, then now we have to say, whether you like it or not, the Creator create neurosis. Creator create neurosis. The story is you eat the apple, and then by eating the apple you got obscured. So that was also without the permission of the Creator. How can you first of all be created, and how can you even eat that apple without the permission of the Creator? So if there is, then it is said that the Creator is given free will. There has to be compassion and all-powerful knowing. If the free will, giving a free will, if that's going to create confusion, I don't think a Creator with a great compassion will give that free will. So you see, there's a lot of this logic will backfire those who believe in that eternalistic tradition. They haven't met someone asking a tough question. If there's a person asking a tough question, then how come? Then what about hell realm? Also, it cannot be created without the permission of the Creator. So then somebody has to go to hell, because otherwise it's waste energy of the Creator creating a hell and no one to be there. One has to accept that too, whether one like it or not. And then there's all-powerful. Supposing by, the Creator got distracted, whatever, which is not possible, actually, but let's say he got distracted. And when he saw that, suddenly all his creation had made a bunch of a mess, he would have instantly dissolved that. The fact that he cannot dissolve that means he has no connection with that creation. It shows he's not part of his creation. There's no Creator. Therefore, when Buddha Shakyamuni, the noble truth of the teaching, Buddha didn't say, you have faith in me and you'll be taken care. He said, understand and recognize the suffering. And once you recognize the suffering, the next stage is recognize the cause of the suffering. And what Buddha said, the cause of the suffering, Buddha didn't say, cause of the suffering, is some Satan or demon outside. Cause of the suffering is your ignorant and afflictive emotion, and the deeds that you create through those afflictive emotions. That's the cause. So then the third noble truth, cessation, is if you eliminate the cause, then the suffering will cease. And then the fourth is the noble truth of path. That is the four noble truth teaching. And when you really look into your mind, your ignorance is your confusion of your mind. Your afflictive emotion is not realizing the true nature of your mind. Therefore, the mind experiences neurosis and affliction. Now, once you begin to deal with affliction, then your minds get supple, your minds get subdued, or supple, and gentle, absence of aggression begin to happen gradually, and then you find liberation from that afflictive emotion, from the neurosis. And that's what's called liberation. And when that liberation happens, your whole phenomena changes. Your inside phenomena as well as external phenomena changes. Because after all, your dream world, or your wake-up world, or your inner world, or your external world are all projection of your mind. Hell realm is also a projection of your mind. Demigod is a projection of your mind. Being a human is also build-up of your mind. And then finally, when you see that a liberation is really taking place, not only on the coarse level, but even on the very subtle level, that phenomena will be quite different. There's, at that time, something called 5 Buddha families, 5 female Buddha families possibility. Then you can see that's possible. Now, today, in the quantum physics theory, there are also scientists know that external phenomena, to posit external phenomena, is like a God particle or particle which exists by itself, doesn't exist. Even in quantum physics theory, through logical scientific logical mind, when they do the study on the atom, they know that externally objects do not really is there eternally. In fact, object doesn't exist as the mind perceives. And how come? How is that so? For example, the fundamental atom, there has to be a fundamental atom, for example, that's how we think in our mind. So if there is a fundamental atom, which scientists also assume that there was, and for a long time it was called God particle, and they were trying to discover God particle. And then there was some different name called Higgs-boson particle, I think. Forgive me if I'm not exactly correct on this. I thought, first I heard the God particle, then there was a Higgs-boson particle, which was named after one scientist. And then they were trying to discover a Higgs-boson particle. I think it got very interesting when it comes to the Higgs-boson particle. I think there's a difference between God particle and a Higgs-boson particle, personally from my limited understanding. God particle, they were trying to see a fundamental particle, objectively, which is real, objective real. Then, of course, they could not find that in our body, because all atoms, once you dissect the atom, dismantle the atom into 10 directions, you can't really find an inherent atom. East is simply labeled based on west or south or north. So all different labels are based on the dependent of the other side. By itself, without depending on anything, there's no such thing as particle, which is they're meant to find existence. How do they exist? There has to be something so real. So it's called God particle. So they couldn't find God particle. Okay, then probably they moved to the next stage. I'm not very sure that this is what I'm thinking, because the day I heard the Higgs-boson particle were discovered, like a few years ago, what was that famous scientist, Stephen Hawking? I think Stephen Hawking, right? His name was Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking said it's not possible also to find a Higgs-boson particle which exists. So, but anyway, the scientists in CERN in Switzerland, they discovered they were very happy. There was a big cheer up. They discovered like Higgs-boson particle. And I was also very amazed. Wow, they discovered something which is impossible. How did they discover? And one day, I tried to go. I log into Google. And I said, what is Higgs-boson? How did they discover, scientists, how did they discover that Higgs-boson particle exists? And the answer was, it was a probability. It wasn't objectively inherently real, which was the earlier part of the God particle, and also the second part, Higgs particle, wasn't an objectively inherent, without depending on any phenomena, a particle which can exist by itself. Rather, it was a probability particle. So now probability means devoid of inherent nature and is simply dependent, and which is energy, which is interdependent. What Buddhism is talking about from so long. So I think it was better than God particle when they moved to Higgs was, I think they improved quite a bit. So I think I have to say that's good, but still, the quantum physics, what they discovered, that objectively nothing really exists now. Because as long as there's no inherent particle, it didn't exist. It's just merely on a labeling, conventional level. Of course, we say there is a particle, and yes, for example, I can lift it up. There's a, body of particle here, therefore I can lift. But when you really look into it, when you analyze it, when you examine it, you cannot discover. When you don't examine, when you don't analyze, when you leave it in a seemingly phenomena, yes, Higgs particle exists, this table exists, my body exists, this chair exists, this mountain and trees and ocean and rivers and everything exists. As long moment you analyze, look deeper, it doesn't exist. But as long as you don't analyze, it exists. Therefore, that was exactly the Mahayana. Quantum physics was discovered over 2,000 years ago by Buddhism, long time ago. But now today, quantum physics, simply knowing objective part on the material, but still they don't have it, like kindergarten on the observer part, the mind part. So now, if objectively things didn't, a scientific mind who realized that things really objectively do not exist as an inherent level by itself, there's a knower, observer there. So it just simply exists in the mental level then. Yes, it really comes to that. It's like your dream, for example. In your, you own your house, you own your car, whatever. And when you see your car in your dream, you open the door, you sit in your car and you drive, and it feels very real. But actually there isn't any car, it's all in your mind. Same thing right now also, on one level, really, objectively, the phenomena is not really there. It's perceived to be there. But when you really look, you can't really find it there. So therefore, when you begin to believe there's something which is not actually there, but when you think that it's actually there, that's where you become neurotic. That's where the ego plays a tremendous powerful game. So powerful, that it can make you totally confused, like your dream. In your dream, you're totally confused. There's nothing there objectively, but you see, smell, taste, and you do everything what you do now. And you're really into it. You go to war, you make love, you do everything. But actually, when you wake up, it isn't there. That's how samsara is. Anything produced by neurosis actually doesn't exist. It seems to exist on a perceptive level, as long as that obscuration, that dualistic energy, I think, let me put the word dualistic energy. As long as the dualistic energy, which of course is the root cause is your mind, because the mind is awareness, and that is the root cause. As long as the dualistic energy seems to function, you begin to see the phenomena according to that. Supposing a very angry man, no matter where he or she is always angry to almost everything. A very jealous person no matter, you don't have to bring much reason, can get easily jealous of everything. A very desired person can get desire for almost everything. So you see all how we have developed our habits in our mind, and they project out, and we begin to see a world, perceive a world according to that mindset, how we have developed that mind. So, is the actual phenomena really exists out or not? Even quantum physics level, they couldn't find when they really look into it. So that's mean, even our emotional problem, our resentment and our attachment and so many things, 90% is our own makeup. So 10% is something which exists. You can't say that, the other person is your mind projection, There's other consciousness, there's your consciousness, other person's consciousness. But when you react, the other person's consciousness, and you react that, but so many times how you make a sauce, like a chocolate sauce of that person, that person is like this and that, you're really simply making it up. But how much truth is there? Only 10%. It's like thinking, your so-called enemy, his or her job is to only hate you. That's the only job he and she has in the universe, to do that job. But that's not true. He and she has many other things to do. They have the cooking things to do, walking things to do, enjoying or whatever. They don't, seems to hate you all the time. Even you meet like 10 different times, maybe there are 10 different levels of, someday very hateful, someday less hateful. Someday okay, just ignore it. So not all the time is same. It shows that objectively is not really actually as you thought it is. It's really how you perceive and how you hold on to that mindset. So in order to heal that, we have to, first of all, it's just simply stupid to hold on to resentment and build a lot of aggression, giving oneself a hard time. How much benefit is there in forgiving and letting it go and being harmony and joy? You will experience so much more joy than always having resentment and those kind of ethnic attachment and whatever. It doesn't really help much. So samsaric beings are always confused. Like a cat chasing its own tail, basically. You're always circling like that. So we need to, let go of these things and really have a better grasp of our mind. Then now, so Buddha's teaching so many different varieties of methods, Hinayana methods. Mahayana, Hinayana is mainly the practice of ethical morality. Then Mahayana is practice of great compassion. Then the Vajrayana is the practice of union of wisdom and compassion, a body of reality. That's what is the teaching of Vajrayana. And then particularly Dzogchen, Mahasandhi, that in one lifetime you can achieve awakening, realization. To this great day, to this day, there have been many great beings in India, in Tibet, in Nepal, and now in the West, a lot of students, Dharma practitioners, those who have hold the samaya on the path genuinely, those who have devotion, and those who have compassion to beings, and diligence to practice, will achieve realization through the practice of Dzogchen. Dzogchen is the highest of all the yanas. It's like the king of the yanas. From the Hinayana to Mahayana to Vajrayana. Within Vajrayana, there are 4 outer tantra, then inner tantras. Then the highest of all is Ati Dzogpa Chimpo. 3 inner yoga. For example, Maha, Anu and Ati. Ati yoga is the highest of yoga, the Mahasandhi in Sanskrit. It is said that when the fortunate being, when he or she sit down, is ordinary being, and when she or she stand up after receiving the Mahasandhi teaching from the teacher, one can be enlightened. Sitting down, you're ordinary person. Standing up, you become enlightened. There's that possibility. It did happen, but that's very rare. It requires a person with very little neurosis, afflictive emotion, and almost on the, it's like the verge of enlightenment in some way. The person is so easily, I would say, on a literal level, someone who had reached the highest level of shamatha, and then introducing the vipassana, and someone like that can achieve the extraordinary insight, the enlightened mind, for example. But generally, someone with tremendous merit, it cannot happen to someone with a lack of merit. Therefore, we need to accumulate the 2 kinds of merit, the conventional merit and the unconventional merit. Conventional merit is your entire bodhisattva yana path, practice of 6 paramita to 4 immeasurable, saving infinite beings' life, helping infinite beings in every way, whatever you can, and accumulating merit, conventional merit, on the 6 paramita, In fact, at that point, the conventional merit is not even called paramita, it's just simply called, dan. Dan is first is giving, then shila, then there's diligence, patience, samadhi. Then only on the 6th level, then it's become wisdom, paramita, which is prajna. So after a tremendous lifetime of practice of 6 paramita, 4 immeasurable, and probably many lifetimes of that practice, or in one lifetime of practice, then receiving a very profound teaching, and then a person easily achieves realization. Is that possible? Yes, it is. Because that's your basic nature, your basic goodness nature. The teaching exists, the lineage exists, the masters, enlightened masters exist. Now the student have to work to achieve that. That's only left. The teaching exists, the teacher exists. Now the student, it's up to the student. How he or she will achieve that state or not, it's up to them. So in order to achieve that, the student is to accumulate the 2 kinds of merit, conventional merit and absolute merit. And so in the Vajrayana teaching, the method to doing that is entering a path of the lineage. Lineage is extremely important. I tell you how. Without lineage, you won't able to achieve a realization. For example, the Dzogchen lineage. The Dzogchen teaching has come in this universe in much ancient times too. There have been 12 great Dzogchen masters in ancient times. And where did the Dzogchen teaching begins with? The question is. Dzogchen is fully enlightened awareness. And the lineage of Dzogchen, there are three lineages. One is called the mind lineage, and one is called the transmission lineage, and one is called the oral lineage. The three kinds of lineage. But before the oral lineage, there was symbolic lineage, sign lineage or symbolic lineage. Rigzin Dai Gyupa in Tibetan is called the Vidyadhara symbolic lineage, in other words, for that. And before the Vidyadhara sign lineage came the Gyawa Gongpe Gyupa, means the victorious mind lineage, the enlightened Buddha's lineage. So enlightened Buddha lineage, mind lineage, was like without any giving teaching. No oral teaching, no symbolic gesture, like simply mind-to-mind transfer. That has to be someone really, really high level of Mahasattva, very high level of beings, like for example, Samantabhadra, the primordial Buddha, gave to Vajrasattva, mind-to-mind transmission, or to Vajrapani, or Avalokishvara, Manjushri. Those are mind-to-mind transmission. According to our lineage, in the Tersar tradition, mind-to-mind lineage was from Samantabhadra Buddha, primordial Buddha, to Vajrasattva, and Vajrasattva's emanation, who is born in this human world, is called Slayipu Simlakchen. Urgin Torchokchen, he is also called Urgin Torchokchen, as Slayipu Simlakchen. Slayipu Simlakchen means the son of the God, extraordinary mind. His name was the son of the God named extraordinary mind. Simlak, extraordinary, so to speak. So, now, when we try to think about the mind-to-mind transmission, it's a non-dual transmission. It's not dualistic transmission. In some way, there is no separation between the teacher and the student at that level. Because we have a notion of here's the teacher and there's the student, dualistic approach. But on the primordial level, when you really look into your mind, the primordial level, there's no duality. So mind-to-mind transmission happened on a very, very, very high level of realize, such as like from Samantabhadra Buddha to Vajrasattva, Manjushri, Avalokishvara, or Chagna Dorje, or Vajrapani. That's mind-to-mind transmission happened. So because the nature of enlightened mind is non-dual, it has to begin from the non-dual lineage. You see, why we're seeing that, why we're tracking it, is the enlightened mind is a non-dual mind. So it has to begin from a non-dual enlightened mind, and that's the lineage. And they're inseparable. It's not like there is a father and then there's a son and there's a grandchild. It's not like that. It's the lineage of mind transmission, like fully enlightened in one awareness, so to speak. No duality. Then, the next is the lineage of symbolic, Vidyadhara symbolic lineage. Now, of course, I think this can be, commentary can be made on various different level, What I mean is, various different level mean is, For example, the Dharmakaya mind. Is mind-to-mind transmission happen on a Dharmakaya level. Then there is next is Sambhogakaya level, where there is a symbolic lineage manifest out of the Sambhogakaya level. Then after that, on the Nirmanakaya level, of course, it doesn't mean that the Buddha's laws or the lineage masters or the, Samantabhadra lost the ground and suddenly become duality. That's not the case. The non-dual is the basis of where the lineage began. That's very important to realize. Based on the non-dual mind-to-mind transmission, then the next subtle expression is Sambhogakaya level. Then those beings who could not relate on the Dharmakaya level mind, or Sambhogakaya levels, the second level mind, they need on the impure phenomena, a Nirmanakaya level transmission has to happen. Such as, like you and I, like gross body, we have this gross, but there you are, here I am, and the teaching is given orally, oral transmission. The teaching is not that, you sit there, I sit there, it's just like one, not the mind transmission. Yes, it is transmitted that non-dual wisdom is transmitted, but now in a much coarse level, grosser level, which is called the oral lineage. And what has been passed down, that non-dual essence has been passed down. There's nothing coarse or gross about that. Non-dual is non-dual, is the wisdom nature. That wisdom lineage is passed. As far as the vehicle which has been passed on, there's, in Latin, Dharmakaya level is extremely high, then Sambhogakaya, very high, then the Nirmanakaya, the lower level. On the gross level, now you need the verb. That non-dual wisdom has to be channeled through words. In other words, it requires words to explain. You sit in this way and you look into your mind this way, and by recognize your mind in that way. And when the nature of the mind is introduced to the student, the nature of their mind has to be truly, understood clearly. Ngoshe, Tibetan word is called ngoshe, means recognize. Once it's recognized, once you recognize the true nature of the mind, it's not enough. But it's the first start, recognizing the true nature of their mind. Then the second stage is one is to perfect that awareness. Supposing, when you sit and meditate, when you do your shamatha meditation too, I would think. When you do your shamatha meditation, you recognize your calm, abiding mind. And those senior students, those who have done the calm abiding meditation for years and years, will be so much more stable, grounded, than someone who is done for like 2 weeks or 1 month or 2 months. The mind is same, but it's different. One is perfected that meditation, so therefore they cannot be easily aggravated compared to the beginner. Beginner is still training, is under the training. For example, even in the military, we have the common soldiers, then there's the veteran, then there's the Navy SEALs, the commandos, whatever, the more training, more confidence. Same thing in meditation, there's the beginner level meditation, then there's the advanced, then there's the senior, then there's a highly, so the same mind, how they can handle situation differently. even in the shamatha meditation. Now, when the nature of the mind is introduced on the Dzogchen level to the student, first stage is they have to truly see the mind as it is. Truly seeing the mind it is but is still not perfected. The example is like a prince and an ordinary man. Being a prince, a son of a king, not in America, maybe they're different. In America, the princelings are maybe, football player or volleyball or baseball player. Their kids, maybe, I don't know. But let's say, like you go to England, where there's a king and monarchy. The son of a queen or the son of a king, who is a princess, daughter or son, prince or princess, their treatment by the government, by the people, generally, of course there's always exception, generally, so much more powerful because simply they are born in that family. So as far as the birthplace, it can subdue all other people. Like when the prince come, everyone has to stand up. I remember when one time I was in Bhutan and the Prince of Bhutan came. We were having a party. It was in one of the royal relative house. So then in the royal relative house, when we were having a party, suddenly the very young prince, maybe like 7 or 8 years, maybe 10 years, I'm not sure, a very young prince, he came, and suddenly we were like about 20, 30 people, and everyone stand up. So as far as the birth, being born to a royal, is suppressed no matter how they're generals or kung fu masters or businessmen or whatever. Everyone has to respect because he's a prince. But as far as the skill of that little child is no comparison to the other people. Other people are maybe some very kung fu master can kick it out, or then some scientists cannot debate to their scientists, or like that. So from the level of technicality is lesser, but since being born to that family, it suppresses all others. Likewise, having the awareness. Having the awareness is so much more powerful because it's non-dual awareness. Yet it is not perfect. It's only like glimpse. You get a glimpse once in a while. It's like a glimpse. But you do experience, when you get the glimpse, it's very powerful. But then it just dissipates because you haven't actualized your awareness deep enough. So it's not stable. It's very flimsy. It is there once in a while, but it's not stable. So then what you have to do, you have to perfect that. Once you perfect your awareness, then you fully realize, like the family of the Buddha, family of the non-dual wisdom, and then all dualistic phenomena can do no harm at that time. All afflictive emotion, neurosis cannot stand in front of that non-dual wisdom. They are all liberated. Whatever comes into contact gets liberated. They get liberated by itself because of the non-dual awareness. Attachment gets liberated by itself. Aggression gets liberated by itself. Jealousy gets liberated by itself. Complexity gets liberated in its own complexity way. They become uncomplex in the presence of the non-dual awareness. All complex things become totally uncomplex. It's like purify itself. It is the power of purify itself, that awareness. So, the three lineage, the lineage of the mind transmission, the primordial non-dual realm, non-dual state. From that, the mind transmission was given to Vajrasattva, to Manjushri, Avalokeshwara, Vajrapani, and to Garab Dorje, who is the emanation of Vajrasattva, who came in this world to benefit being, and he was the first Dzogchen master in this world who gave Dzogchen teaching. Yes, Buddha Shakyamuni also gives Dzogchen teaching. But ordinarily, people, ordinarily, not everyone experienced that Buddha gave Dzogchen teaching. Because common people, Buddha only gave teaching of Four Noble Truth. But then indirectly, you can understand that Buddha gave the Dzogchen teaching. How do you understand that Buddha gave the Dzogchen teaching? It's based on the third noble truth, the cessation. That cessation on the most deepest level is the Dzogchen non-dual awareness. It's just a question on what degree the non-dual teaching was explained by Buddha. As far as the Hinayana disciples are concerned, they say Buddha didn't, give such thing, But then, from the Mahayana point of view and Dzogchen point of view, when you really, even logically, when you try to look into it, and then needless to say, from the experiential level, that was the main teaching of Buddha, where all the teachings of the non-ego state, non-dualism, all came from the third noble truth of cessation. So it's very clear. All the middle path teaching came from the third noble truth. Mind-only school views came from the third only. So all the different inner view, the ultimate truth, all is a question of what level, but they all came from the third noble truth. Very, very clear. Rang Tongpa, Shen Tongpa, whatever we call, all came explanation of the third noble truth. And to the even within the Dzogchen, there's the mind-only school. There's mind section, space section, pit instruction section within the Dzogchen teaching, and all came from that, sprang from that third noble truth. Therefore, Mayan teaching is genuine. So only, even generally, the Dzogchen teaching is like self-hidden, self-secret. That's the amazing part. To some, Dzogchen teaching, people can hear it many times, but it's self-secret. You don't realize, if your mind is so much obscuration, you're not going to realize that. It is said that in order to hear and realize, you have to have tremendous merit, and at some point, the click from duality to non-duality happen, so to speak. It's the magic happened at that time. The magic of devotion and the compassion. Devotion of the student and the compassion of the master and the pit instruction lineage. When those three things meet, the master, the student, and the pit instruction, then the magic will happen at that time. So it's extremely important, that unconventional wisdom, that wisdom which goes beyond cause and effect. Unconventional means goes beyond cause and effect, therefore it's called unconventional. The wisdom which goes beyond cause and effect, that highest level of reality, body of reality, Dharmakaya body, is seen through the devotion and compassion and the pit instruction. Therefore, the lineage is so sacred and so powerful. No lineage, no there is no blessing at all. You can't get enlightened by watching YouTube and by listening to tapes. You need a physical master whose compassion and wisdom, blessing is to pour to you, and your devotion to receive it. And the masters with instruction, the key, showing the golden key, giving you the golden key to open that. That's how the magical situation take place. And so for that, the conditions, if you say a condition, what conditions are required before, the two kinds of merit, relative merit and absolute merit. Sitting practice, and then being generosity, being kind, practicing whole bodhisattva yanapet is all part of that merit practice. And that will purify all obscuration. All the impure energy which is staying on your mind is like a mirror, your mind is like a mirror. And if there's a lot of stain, even the mirror itself has the potential to see things, but because of all the dirts, you're not able to see things in the mirror. That's like obscuration. So the wiping it off with the hand is, it's like accumulating merit and purifying obscuration. And then you're able to say clean mirror like that. So then, therefore, in this world, the three transmission happen from Samantabhadra Buddha, first the mind transmission, to Vajrasattva, and I've said, then the Garab Dorji in our lineage. Though, as I said, even Vajrapani, our Lokeshwara, Manjushri, they all have received that mind transmission. Then if you look at the Dzogchen, the Dzogchen teaching came in this world way before this eon time. Through the natural strength, the merit of being, and Buddha's three kayas expression, three kayas expression, because without the three kayas, there will be no lineage, there will be no blessing, there will be no realization. If it's just mere empty, how can there be lineage? A mere empty doesn't. People talk about emptiness these days, but a lot of people have misunderstanding of emptiness. They think emptiness means nothingness. And there is always a danger of falling into the extreme of nothingness. So one has to be very careful. Therefore, one is a living master to go through that. You can't go through that on listening to a tape or CD or something like that. It needs a live teacher to explain. So, think about it. It says Buddha achieved merit for 3 endless eon. And after 3 endless eon, if what he achieved is called emptiness, nothingness, what's the point? Accumulating merit for 3 endless eon and all you got is nothingness? Doesn't make any sense. It's called clear light. Buddha achieved clear light, not empty, which is union of wisdom and compassion, transcending both eternalism and nihilism. That view is called the awakened Buddha heart, which goes beyond samsara, beyond all conditioned phenomena, the primordial non-dual state. So, when we talk about Buddha, we have to really understand the 3 kayas. Not just empty, but 3 kayas. What is the 3 kayas? The essence is empty. Rangjin means natural. Essence is empty. Natural quality is clarity and all-pervading compassion. By the union of those two is all-pervading compassion. So those are the 3 kayas, which is through that primordial Buddha and the being's good fortune, these teaching manifest in this world. So if you want to, just for this, earlier, some people may wonder, did the Dzogchen teaching came in this world before? Yes, it did, because, the nature of non-duality is the nature of enlightened mind of all beings. So obviously, Buddhas came and gave that teaching. And one of the first Buddha who gave was called Trakpa Seden. Buddha Trakpa Seden. And he gave Dzogchen teaching, and 700,000 people got liberated at that time. Then in one of the aeon called Kalpa Gaden, Vajradhara emanation gave to Vajrapani. This is the mind transmission. And Vajradhara again manifested in someone named Kigu Ngowa Thampa, gave Dzogchen teaching to 1,002 Buddhas. He gave the teaching called Root Tantra, where there's Dzogchen teaching. Then if we recount like the evolution, on an evolution basis, we say that the Big Bang and then, everything happened gradually. But it's very hard to everyone to recollect how did that really happen. When we think about the cosmology, when we think about all the phenomena, they're arising in this phenomenal world, it's very hard to recollect because most people cannot recollect. But when you look at so let's trace a little bit back from our present day. Today is called decadent time, degenerate time, meaning that degenerate has 5 different meanings. Degenerate beings, degenerate time, degenerate emotion, degenerate view, and degenerate life. So degenerate, first of all, if you look at the degenerate emotion, today our neurosis of all kinds are heightened neurosis, which comes with the speed. Like you are driving, like a Ferrari on a race course, or the fastest car or jet, whatever. Our neuroses are so heightened today that people are very difficult to be satisfied in every level. People are difficult to satisfy, very neurotic, very heightened, and very doubtful all the time. So therefore people go through a lot of suffering today because of intense neurosis today. It's a degenerate. So it's a degenerate emotion. Compared to when you look back, like, at the beginning of 19th century, people are more modest. Not that people don't have neurosis, but there's so much less compared to today. Today people are wild and crazy. But before, people are a little bit less. Not that they don't have the potential. Of course, the mind is the same potential, but they're more modest. They're more, content. They're not as greedy as today. Today we get more and more greed, more neurosis, more anger. We build a tremendous weapon system today. Missiles are not good enough. Now we are building hyper missile to kill fastest way in all different forms, laser weapons or nuclear weapons or chemical weapons, biological weapons, in every way. heightened neurosis, how we deal with, even our community. There's a lack of concern for community. There's a lack of concern for environmental. So if you look at how our mind is caught up in such a greed and speed, it's just like unbelievable. If you just try to look and see how it was like 200 years ago, 300 years ago, and then gradually today, like 19th century, 20th century, then 21st century. Of course, nothing was easy in 20th century too. It was all decadent time. Now it's getting worse and worse day by day by day. When you try to look back, like a few years ago was like a golden age. Even it was hard, but it was like a golden age. Today is so much distrust that people have. We don't trust anyone. Chhoje Rinpoche told me a story. There was one guy in Tibet, and I think Rinpoche knows him, something. So Rinpoche heard this story. I think, he heard from him or something. And he said, I don't trust nobody. The only thing that I trust is this pillar in front of me. This pillar I can trust, otherwise I trust nobody. So, today we are reaching that kind of time. It's so difficult to trust anybody. The only thing you can trust is yourself and the pillar, It's difficult to trust your family member, difficult to trust anybody. The only, it's really a sign of decadence. No joy, no warmth, lack of heart, lack of place that people accept who you are, and then, make you work through in your own way. Being there for them. It's very hard today. It's like tremendous aggression today. Aggression, hard to forgive, and beings also very degenerate. So that's the time. So degenerate emotion, degenerate beings. Degenerate time, the time is like the time of weaponry is called. So much weapons of all kinds are there, which can destroy the world today in a flash. If one crazy leader can destroy the world in a flash today. So much nuclear weapons with so many countries, biological weapons, all kinds of weapons are everywhere. Terrorists, So it's just, really, it's quite amazing how we are still surviving in some way in the midst of all this. So therefore, the sign of 5 degeneration, degenerate means, intensity, like no gap. It's like, instantly, everything like instant. So people have no rest, no place to rest. Obviously, people get tired, exhausted, and no trust. And no trust brings the lack of warmth, and the practice of compassion, wisdom get really challenging at that time. Because you think that if I try to be kind, that person may take advantage of me. But before, people hardly ever think like that. But today, people think that way. But that should not prevent us, those who are still following the Dharma. It's the time to even practice harder. It inspires you more. The suffering brings more inspiration to benefit being. If you truly have strong wisdom inside you, you're not afraid to deal with that. In fact, it gives more joy to deal with that. So as a practitioner, we should recommit our bodhicitta mind and work and strive harder to benefit being. So then, not only others can find happiness, we can also find deeper happiness and satisfaction in that. So the time like that, I got a little carried away. Anyway, at present, so at present eon, in the evolutionary time of evolutionary time. So it's hard for all of us to go back to a few billion years ago. At least like the universe is old as few billion years ago. It's hard for us to go back at that time. But let's look at how it is today so we can kind of have some inferral logic that, how it was like few years ago, like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, so much sane, so much better compared to today, like insane and like craziness going on. So then we could kind of understand that it is said in the teaching that at the beginning of evolutionary time, that there was no sun and moon. I think the whole cosmology is like our collective karma. It is a collective karma, wherever we are, how things are. So it is said that people are 7 times taller than today at that time. And people have light out of their body. People don't need to eat gross food. At that time, people have so much merit. All because the neurotic, afflictive emotion is extremely light, extremely low, or very barely, they're very light neurosis. Therefore, they have the merit like light coming out of their body. They can eat for food, they can eat the samadhi, And so therefore, even though there is, ignorance, and there is desire, there is aggression, but there's so little. The afflictive emotion is so less. So therefore, no gross kind of communication. So if you look at how the teaching also, teaching has to relate to that particular time and particular emotion of beings. If you look at the paintings of the earlier tantras, like the Kriya Tantra, it explains about being very clean and nice. Very clean, basically. You take bath like 2 or 3 times a day, and you being vegetarian and like that. Those are the earlier practice, how it came in this world. So in that, even physical relationship, the deities, there's the male and female deities, the male deity and female looking at each other is satisfaction. At that time, there was no gross sex. It was just, even on the desire level, just simply watching, there is satisfaction. Then as time went by, then when the emotion got more grosser, then the gross food was required. And then, gradually the lights and, splendor of the body get diminished. And then, as time goes by, then the next level of teaching has to come to deal with that level of emotion. Otherwise, the first teachings was not enough, not strong enough. Then in the Tankas, if you look at the portray at the evolutionary way, then the deities, you see, after all the deities enlightened manifestation has to relate with the present situation of being. Because enlightened beings don't need enlightened teachings. Teachings are meant for the people who are wrapped up in dualistic emotion. Not for those who are living in non-dual realization. They don't need anything. The teaching has to show the example to the non-dual, to the dualistic being, how they can get to their primordial basic goodness. So then the next level of painting, if you look, is like the male deity smiling at the female deity. Now, before it was simply gazing, now just like, smiling was required on the next Tantra level. Then the third was like touching. Just simply touch, there was satisfaction. And as the time goes by and we got more gross, more neurotic, then now, is the time of this time is the union. So if you see in the Tanka, like Vajrasattva, male and deity, it's like the way when we have, the sexual manifestation is just like, the union. So what you see in the Tankas, it shows that through now it requires to realize on the deeper level, even how to transmute that energy, it is not just simply by gazing or simply by seeing or simply by touching. Now it's actually need the physical union to that deeper level of teaching is required. In other words, a much more powerful dose is required. Instead of like a 5 millimeter, now you need like 120 millimeters. Before 5 millimeter is good enough. Now you need 120 or 200 millimeters or 300 millimeters sort of dose to transmute that energy into enlightened energy. So, whether it's emotion of desire, emotion of aggression, then same thing with the deity. If you look at a wrathful deity, looks like very wrathful, like demon, look very fangs coming out. To deal with our present day aggression is so strong that if the Buddha doesn't manifest into those kind of form, then it's very hard to subdue that kind of aggression. So it's like aggression overpowering aggression. Desire liberating desire, aggression liberating aggression, like that. So each one of the, antidote is there to each one of the afflictive emotion neurosis. How is working with that? So today, in a time of, of requiring gross food, so during this time, 12 great Dzogchen masters have come. And one of the early one is called Omin Gyurwa, Buddha Omin Gyurwa. And he gave teaching. This was like much before our time. And then, countless beings were put to liberation. Then secondly, there's a place called Body of Light. Buddha named Namparsewa. And he gave Dzogchen teaching. And again, countless beings were liberated. Then the third one, Vajradhara came in a place called Lake Shunudumra. It's like a garden of youthful lake, place called. Vajradhara came and then gave Dzogchen teaching, and countless beings were liberated. Then after that, in the channel ground of a place called channel ground of practice of esoteric, a Buddha named Sangye Shunupao Tobden, meaning, the youthful, heroic victor. He came and again giving Dzogchen teaching. These are all Dzogchen teaching, and at least countless beings were liberated. Then another, a place called Sinpur Rolpe Gaden, and the teacher name was Rishi Tepe Gyalpo, Drangsong Tepe Gyalpo, which is Rishi in Sanskrit. Rishi, truthful. Rishi means truthful. And he gave Dzogchen teaching, and again countless beings were liberated. Then the sixth master was Chagup in the place Vulture Peak. Tumpa Drangsong Shirap Tumpa. Tumpa Shirap Tumpa. The teacher name was Shirap Tumpa, and he gave Dzogchen teaching, and again countless beings were liberated. Then after that came in a place called Sokpo Yungunchen. Sokpo usually means Mongols. Yungunpa Chen, Tumpa Severolpe Lutu. This teacher name was Severolpa. Severolpa means loving kindness, wisdom holder. And he gave teaching, and countless beings were liberated. And then after that, another in a place called Vulture Peak, Tumpa Husung Depo. The teacher name was Kashyap. Depo, Kashyap, and he gives Dzogchen teaching. Again, countless beings were liberated through the teaching of Dzogchen Rinpoche. Then after that, in Bodh Gaya, teacher name was Muntuk Gyalpo, and he gave Dzogchen teaching, and again countless beings were liberated. Then the 10th one was our Shakyamuni Buddha. Sirkene, is, I think, the place called Sirkene. So even Buddha Shakyamuni gave Dzogchen teaching, but only to those who are in higher faculty, not to the lower faculty, such as the Hinayana disciples, because they say that the Mahayana teaching was never given by the Buddha. But as I was explaining, the third turning of the wheel of Dharma, goes deeper to the Shunyata, to the clear light. And obviously the Dzogchen teaching, it shows that Buddha gave the Dzogchen teaching. And furthermore, Buddha, historically, Buddha gave like tantric teaching of Kali Chakra in Amravati. I think the place is called Amravati in India today, where Buddha gave tantric teaching when Buddha was much older age. At that time, Buddha gave the tantric teaching. Then furthermore, Manjushri gives Dzogchen teaching in Five Peak Mountain in Wutaishan in China. Gives teaching to go to Devas and Rishis, and many of them got liberated. Our Lokeshwara went to Naga's realm, and many Nagas got liberated. And then Vajrapani went to the northern side, Changlochen, and gave teachings to the Yakshasas, like genes. These are like genes, and giving the teaching of Dzogchen. Many of them achieved enlightenment. Then on the western side, Vajrayogini gave teaching of Dzogchen to Dakas and Dakinis, and many of them achieved realization. Furthermore, the 24 great holy places, sacred places, like they're sacred channel grounds, some of them, like in Nepal, Kullu in India, number of places there, 24 great sacred places, giving teaching to Dakas and Dakinis by Vajrayogini. And then Manjushri went to Deva's realm, in the God's realm, Deva's realm, give teaching to Brahma in the Brahma's realm. And 100,000 Devas got enlightened, got liberated. And in this world, Manjushri gave teaching to Litsapi Timet Takpa, and 100,000 human beings got liberated. Our Lokeshwara went to Nagas' places in the ocean, and 100,000 Nagas got liberated by Dzogchen teaching. Vajrapani went to the genie's land, and 1,000 of them got liberated. And our Lokeshwara came in this world and blessed 7 places And 700,000 humans were liberated in such as the place called Riotala, our Lokeshwara sacred blessed place. Now this is very interesting. I have a story about that. There's 7 blessed places, some of them in India and Nepal and Odiana and then China. I've been to China where our Lokeshwara sacred blessed place called Riotala. This is an extraordinary place. In fact, you can look into YouTube also. So it's near Shanghai, and they call Po Tai Shan. The Chinese, I think Shan is like a sacred place, like Wu Tai Shan, Po Tai Shan. Yeah. Wu Tai Shan is Manjushri sacred place, and Po Tai Shan is our Lokeshwara sacred place. This you have to take the bus from Shanghai for like about half an hour or 40 minutes. You cross the tallest bridge in the world. I think it was like 37 kilometers bridge, one bridge that long. And then you take the ship, boat, ride for like an hour or so. And then you get to this island, which is the blessed place of our Lokeshwara. So when you get on this place, they have, on this island, there were like about more than 100 temples, meditation centers there. It's all sacred, blessed place of our Lokeshwara. And then from there, there's a footprint of, there's a rock. I couldn't go to all the places. I couldn't speak Chinese language, so it was so difficult. I was by myself. And so, so from there, you can see there's a rock where there's a footprint of Tara, and then like about 2 kilometers or 3 kilometers, something like that, you see from the ocean our Lokeshwara self-born rising, like sleeping style, like his head, the hands and the feet, all naturally not made by humans, and it's so big. The boats go there, and on top of that, they even have like a pagoda built up. And I didn't want to go there because it's like stepping on the body of Avalokeshwara. I didn't feel comfortable, so from far away I did prostration and I did it. Avalokeshwara practice. So, but it's a natural shape. The head, the shoulder, the hand, and the feet all rising from the ocean in the middle, and it's like Avalokeshwara form. And you can look, it's called Po Tai Shan, China, near China, Shanghai, and probably it will show up on your computer, It's like quite an amazing place. So all these places our Lokeshwara went and give teachings to human, and 700,000 human beings got liberated through Dzogchen teaching. Then particularly in our world, in Sri Lanka, today they call it Adam Speak. I don't know who names that, Adam Speak, but the mountain is in Sri Lanka, and on top of that mountain, Vajrapani appeared in person and gave teaching to Thampe Rikchen Nga, Tibetan called Thampe Rikchen Nga. So they are like different beings. Some are humans, some are non-human. They are non-humans, and to them, Vajrapani gave the teaching of Dzogchen, and then the teaching of Tantra, basically teaching of Tantra appeared in the form of texts, in the form of books at that place. That's how the teaching of Dzogchen came in this world. And particularly to Urgyen Torchokchen, to Slayepu Simlakchen, Vajrasattva emanation. When he was born, I think his mother was a none, something. And then she got pregnant. I don't know how whether it was natural. Now I don't remember. But anyway, it was when he was 8 years old, 7 or 8 years old, 7 or 8 years old, he was, it was a Vajrasattva nation, enlightened being. He debated with 500 scholars and defeated 500 scholars. And everyone was amazed. An 8 years old child could defeat them, in discussion. And the king was so happy, and he named him Garab Dorje, means extreme joy. Garab is extreme, extreme Vajra joy. Garab means extreme joy Vajra, because he was born with the Vajra on his hand. So it was called extreme joy Vajra. So from him, then the teaching of Dzogchen was given to Manjushri Mitra. First, Manjushri Mitra came to debate with Garab Dorje, but then once he realized who he was, then he became a student. And then Manjushri Mitra, all the Dzogchen teaching, he compiled into 3 levels. Chisimde, Nanglongde, Sama Mengakide, externally is mind section, internally space section, then secret pit instruction section. Manjushri Mitra compiled the Dzogchen teaching into those 3. And then from him, then our Lokeshwara, Professor Shri Singha in China, to go to receive teaching from Manjushri Mitra. And then Shri Singha, who was a Chinese, and he came to India and received the Dzogchen teaching from Manjushri Mitra. And then from Shri Singha, Bimala Mitra in Yishe-do and Padmasambhava and Jnana Sutra, they all went and received teaching. Padmasambhava, Bimala Mitra, Yishe-do, Jnana, and Yishe-do is Jnana Sutra. They went and received Dzogchen teaching from Shri Singha. And then from Padmasambhava, the lineage of our lineage of the Dzogchen lineage, Padmasambhava gave to Yishe Tsogel, Dakin Yishe Tsogel, and from Padmasambhava gave to Dakin Yishe Tsogel, and from Dakin Yishe Tsogel to Dudjom Lingpa, and to Dudjom Dakin Yishe Tsogel to Dudjom Lingpa, then to Gyurme Ngeton Wangpo, then to Jigdal Yishe Dorje, and from Jigdal Yishe Dorje I receive it. And then from, that's how the lineage comes. So if you look at the lineage, is so direct, and not like some lineage where there are 2 long lines, but the danger of too many, like if there's so many masters, sometimes there's always a danger of, the lineage, samaya broken or not being kept pure, then there is always a danger. The enlightened lineage has to be pure. From the teacher to the student, everything has to be pure. Then the student is achieved to receive the full blessing. It's like a river flow. If the river flow is clear and where there's no obstacle, then the water will come straight to go to all the fields and benefit. But if there's obstruction in the river, then the water will not come properly to the fields where it's required. Same thing like that. Having the short, this is Dharma lineage, directly from Padmasambhava to Yishe Tsogel to Dudjom Lingpa, and then to Dudjom Jigdal Yishe Dorje, like that. So lineage is very, very close and direct. But let me tell you one thing. Until me, my teacher Dudjom Rinpoche, they were all enlightened. I'm the only one, who is not enlightened. So, But you must think of me as enlightened. If I'm not enlightened, then you get the blessing, but, all my teachers are enlightened, from Chhoje Rinpoche to, Dudjom Rinpoche. These are all enlightened masters. So, so a little bit of their drops which comes on me, definitely there's a blessing. So, but anyway, one has to, if one sees one teacher as a Buddha, one get a blessing of the Buddha. If one sees one teacher as a human being, one get the blessing of a human being. There's a saying. So it's your perception, how you must relate to your teacher as the Buddha, then you get the blessing of the Buddha. So anyway, so that's how the lineage of the Dzogchen has been passed. And doing ngondro practice now. Ngondro practice is the vehicle, how to get to the primordial wisdom state. In one lifetime you can achieve the primordial Buddhahood. So therefore, so it's been now 2 hours, more than 2 hours. So since, say that again.
There are 2 questions about the kayas. Do you want to take those questions now or wait until after?
Afterwards. So now, so know that when you're doing ngondro practice, you're going to the Dzogchen, the stages called preliminary, and what is the last? It's Dzogchen. Primordial wisdom kingdom, primordial wisdom state, that's where you're going. So therefore, this whole training on the path is for you to finally get there in one lifetime. So powerful, you can only get to a non-dual wisdom body through the lineage of the non-dual. So it's not like an ordinary practice, ordinary teaching. This is very, very profound. And if you do with your devotion and compassion, you can experience the depth and profundity of this. So that's why I thought it's good for me to explain the ngondro teaching to Chhoje. So now in ngondro, there's a shorter version of ngondro and a longer version of ngondro in the Tersar lineage. And since most of you are doing the shorter version of ngondro, because of the time now, I think I will explain from the short one, and then you can always read the commentary of the ngondro, which is called the Torch Lighting the Way of Freedom by Dudjom Rinpoche Jigdalishi Dorje, this book. We have at the center for sale, and those who are interested, you can buy from here. So then, so it says in the ngondro teaching, 2 parts, inner ngondro and outer ngondro. First is the outer ngondro, which is the training of the mind, the training of the mind for renunciation. This mind is to renounce and to get detached from the samsaric, the samsaric business which never finish. We have samsaric business which never finish, never cease, and going after that to unceasing activities which brings no benefit but full of neurosis and affliction. How to abandon that? That's the 4 outer ngondros. So it says Namo means prostrate. Lumi thinki gompo lamakin. Lua mepa means one who never deceive. One who never deceive is one's Lama, who is the embodiment of the 3 kayas. And praying to the Lama, please make it worthwhile, my precious human body. This precious human body is very, very hard to achieve. I mean, we think, our father and mother have sex and then here you are born. It's not as simple as that. You got to have a lot of positive karma to be born as a human being. You must have done some amazing thing in the past, good karma to born as a human being, to have that. I mean, just look at, in your own house, and even, for example, here I'm sitting and Tracy is sitting there. Just in this big hall, only 2 human beings. But how many insects are there in this building? How many tiny microbes beings are there in this space that, tiny, you need microscopic lenses to see. And they all have beings, consciousness. And then there are how many without body are there? There are like trillions of beings in this room. But how many with a precious human body? So rare, like a star of the day. At nighttime you can see a lot of stars, but daytime so rare, 1 or 2, very few you can see. Same thing, to get a precious human body is really not easy. You have to accumulate tremendous merit. It's a result of good karma, merit that you're born as a human being. But even you're born as a human being, not everyone become precious. Because there are a lot of human beings who squandered their life, waste their life. And instead of engaging in basic goodness, they're engaging in negativities, do more harm. They're worse than animals. Animals also, animals cannot do harm on a large scale, but human being can do harm in a large scale. So therefore, to gain a precious human rebirth with all the proper endowment is extremely difficult. And it's explained in the words of my perfect teacher and explained by his son Dudjom Rinpoche here in the text too. And that's true. If you really look how good people are so rare. We always say, how difficult good people are. And to finding someone on the path to achieve enlightenment is even more rare. So, to gain this precious human rebirth is very difficult. But even you gain it, it's impermanence, it will die. You're bound to die, you can't keep it all the time. While, your all experience, happiness as well as sorrow, is based on your cause and effect, based on your deeds. And as long as you're born in this samsara, in this cyclic existence, no matter you're born as a powerful king or queen to a beggar, there's always the suffering. All the places. The 3 kinds of suffering, suffering of suffering, change of suffering, conditioned suffering. So since nature of samsara is suffering, therefore, please bless me so I don't get trapped and attached in this place for long, so that my mind can turn away from this. Bless me to my mind to turn away from unachieving things, ceaseless unachieving thing. No matter how much you get, you're never satisfied. And no matter how much you pursue, it's like waste, And in fact, it increases more afflictive emotion. And you have to do a lot of bad karma sometimes to achieve things. So please bless me not to get trapped and follow such a life. So that's the prayer first. Then there's the 4 outer ngondro. In fact, some people do, like a training on each one of these 4 outer ngondro. 1 week meditation on precious human rebirth. You begin to truly feel, you don't take it for granted then, how difficult it is to achieve precious human rebirth. You look outside in the world, how many people are wasting, and how many genuine people with compassion and wisdom, trying to develop that within themselves and find liberation. It starts like a day stars. Then how many people get trapped in thinking everything is permanent. Even we are dying next minute, still we are planning things for the next 20 years. We have no concept of impermanence. Therefore His Holiness says, there's one prayer, aspiration prayer by His Holiness. In that he says, please bless me not to plan at the time of death. Because you never know when you're dying, but yet you're planning for the next 20, 30 years, still always, unceasing.
Because not knowing is impermanence. So if people meditate on impermanence, actually it will help you emotionally, really deeply. You'll be much happier. Because all our aggressions and problems come from, thinking we're going to live forever. Then everything is ever. Your enemy is ever also. So therefore, if you think impermanence, you think, what's the point for me to hold so much grudge? Neither he is happy, nor I'm happy. Let me forgive her or him, and then, move forward. It's good for them, good for me. You see, this is blessing come when you meditate in impermanence. But if you don't meditate in impermanence, this kind of mindset do not arise in us because we are used to the notion of real, grasping everything so real for so many lifetimes. So therefore, it's not really a habit in our mind. Rather, it's the wrong kind of notion that seeing impermanent into permanent is the wrong notion. Therefore, a lot of wrong negativities come out of that, which gives us unceasing suffering. So it's very beneficial to meditate on impermanence. Then the third part is whatever you do, there's a consequence, good or bad. There's a karmic, consequence. So you should be knowledgeable what brings happiness, even on a conventional level, relative level, and what brings happiness. What are the causes for relative happiness? What are the causes for relative suffering? So if you are clear about that, then you will not be deceived by phenomena. You're expecting happiness, the happiness will come. Though relative happiness is relative, it's not absolute, so it cannot give you like forever and ever and ever, but it will give you for longer than anybody else. Knowing the cause and effect. You're not ignorant about cause and effect. Now, ultimate happinesses will come from realization of primordial wisdom. So then, not only that, the trap. We are ceaselessly, trapped and wandering in cyclic existence. And no matter how we are in this cyclic existence, you become president of the United States, but there's an end after 4 years term, or 8 years, the longest, 2-term president, and then you can no longer be the president. It's the law of the country. And then after that, you become ordinary citizen. I saw when President Reagan was, after his 2-term, leaving the White House, and he was entering the Air Force One, and when he enters once he's no longer the president, the Air Force One, it doesn't apply the word Air Force One. I think then it's just become some Air Force, or Air Force plane. It's no longer Air Force One. Because whoever's the president, he gets the title of Air Force One. So when he was entering the plane's door, the media asked him, how do you feel, President, now after giving his 2-term is gone? He said, it feels nausea. I still remember that. President Reagan answered, I feel nausea, So therefore, samsara, at the end, it always brings suffering. Even you become president, it's all temporarily. Even you become monarch of this universe is temporal. So therefore, at the end, as we say, all good things comes to an end. It's a way of saying, people realizing its impermanence, but we don't think of that much. We just say it and then move forward again thinking it's real. So anyway, samsara, no matter where you're born, is nature of suffering. Even, the conditional suffering, like the case of President Reagan, what he said, yes, that very president made him happy at one time, but the very president title, when that was lost to the same person, it brought suffering. So you see, the very thing which brings us happiness is also the cause of suffering, in other words. And I use the example, like supposing you have a car, this year, a Toyota car with a particular model you like. After 5 years, another better, more sophisticated, heated steering, and heated gear, and all this thing comes. And then when you look at your car, which doesn't have that, it makes you angry looking at that. I don't need this scrap. Let me throw it and get me another. No. So you see, the very thing which brought you happiness one time, now it brings you pain. Same thing, your body. When we are youth, 16 years old, 17 years old, in a teenage, youthful, we are so happy to see ourselves in the mirror. And when we get older, we don't want to see too much in the mirror, There are wrinkles, and then, then think of doing cosmetic surgery, or, and even cosmetic surgery, you need to keep up again and again. So the very body which gives you happiness one time, again, that's also giving you pain. That is the nature of samsara also there. All phenomena, whatever is born has to die, is nature of, the futility is there at the end. So as long as one is born in that phenomenal state, the suffering is ceaseless. So therefore, why you should get enlightened and get out of samsara. That is the reason to, Anyway, all this, endless unachieving things, no matter how much you work hard, at the end brings you suffering. Therefore, please may my mind turn into Dharma means may my mind not get attached to, to unachievable things, thinking, all these conditioned phenomena will be like unconditioned. Of course, it can never be unconditioned. It's just temporarily. Even the happiness are temporarily. So what can you really, where you can achieve everlasting happiness is purifying the two defilements, achieving the body of Dharmakaya and wisdom body, and then that is where you achieve victorious state. Until that, you are subjected to change. Then you move to the inner practice now. The inner 5 ngondro are until I achieve enlightenment, I take refuge in the triple gem. And that triple gem is very, very deep meaning. Now basically, if I sums it up, the triple gem, devoid of eternalism, or absence of eternalism, absence of nihilism, the middle path is the triple gem, essence of triple gem. So if you have a good understanding of dependent origination, you have a pretty good idea of triple gem at that point. Not the unconditioned, but to a certain level your mind can grasp. So therefore it's good to have read the text and then reflect on that meaning, what triple gem means. And then finally, the true nature of triple gem is the true nature of your mind. And that is the triple gem. Is gem. That mind is so precious. The clear light is so precious. The union of wisdom and mind is so precious. So therefore it's called triple gem. Triple gem here, Dharma, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, So Buddha in one way is the awareness, Dharma is the expression of the awareness, and Sangha is the activity of that, in other words. Yeah? So it's nothing foreign, nothing strange. So that's what it is. Enlightened awareness, enlightened expression, and then enlightened activity, you can say. I think that's another way of saying. Or you can also see the Buddha as what you see, and then the Dharma is all the different teachings, and Sangha is, there are two kinds of Sangha, enlightened Sangha and unenlightened Sangha. When one takes refuge, is the enlightened Sangha, not the unenlightened Sangha, such as the, Nagarjuna and all the bodhisattvas, enlightened bodhisattvas, and arahats, those are the enlightened Sanghas, not ordinary people. Then after that, then is bodhicitta mind, which is the most important again. Because without compassion, it is said that compassion in the Bodhisattva Avatara teaching, it says, Shantideva explained that compassion is the mother of compassion is mother of enlightenment. Without compassion, you can't achieve enlightenment. So therefore, through the relative compassion, and then through integrating wisdom, absolute compassion, then you are able to achieve benefit to yourself and tremendous infinite being. So that's the practice of compassion in your mind. Then is the how to accumulate merit, the next stage is. Without merit, there's a saying, no merit, if you try to squeeze a sand, there will be no oil come out of it. But if you squeeze a sesame seed, oil will come out of it. Same thing, you need, the conditioned phenomena is cause and effect. So good is also cause and effect, bad is also cause and effect. Merit is also cause and effect, demerit is also cause and effect. So therefore a positive energy gives birth, rise to a merit. And negative mindset and negative energy give rise to, destroy merit, in other words. So therefore, anger. So he says that among all the emotion, anger is the most powerful negative mind to destroy your merit. 100 eons of merit can be destroyed in an instant of anger. One anger can destroy 100 eons merit. If you get angry to a bodhisattva, 1,000 eons merit can be destroyed in an instant because of the place, sacredness. Among ordinary beings, if you get angry to your parents, is much more destructive than getting ordinary to some ordinary person. Of course, getting angry to anybody, you destroy your merit. But getting angry to your parents, or to your teacher, or to someone on the spiritual path, genuine yogi, yogini, monks, nuns, whatever, you can destroy your merit much more faster because of this, who they are and how they are, So therefore, of all the emotion, most destructive emotion is the anger. So we need to really work with that. We all have, that problem, especially in a high-speed society like modern day. We have to be very careful with the impatience and aggression. And so Bodhisattva teaching, Shantideva really explained the danger of aggression and the benefit of, trying to transform that into gentleness, the benefit for ourselves and all being that's infinite in that. So you should study the session of patience in Bodhisattva teaching. So then there's how to accumulate the merit, the two kinds of merit, through mandala practice. Then after mandala practice, and then you should go to the Vajrasattva, which is the, Vajrasattva is the, of course, early we talk about today, from Samantabhadra Buddha to Vajrasattva is mind transmission, the non-dual mind transmission. So such awareness of Buddha and Vajrasattva, who have made the aspiration in the future, whoever practice me, may all the negative karma purifies. So therefore, it's called, this practice is the king of purification. So through the practice of Vajrasattva, you visualize Vajrasattva above your crown, and the nectar pours into your body, and then cleanse it out through your opening, goes underneath the ground in the form of charcoal and spiders and snakes and scorpions like that, all the negative forces in those forms, cleansing out sickness in the form of pus, impure blood and pus like that. So you visualize all the sickness being cleansed and being purified, all the obscuration in the form of charcoal, all the negative forces in the form of like snakes and spiders and scorpions like that, all flushing out, from all opening, from your body, lower parts, and flushing under the ground, like deep, deep under the ground. And so there are different visualizations. So you can visualize like that while you're doing Bhadrasata. And as a sign, as a sign of purification, different kinds of signs of purification will come. Or sometimes the sign of purification can be like a little painful too. Like, for example, if you wash your dirty clothes, it's going to smell. Or if you wash your toilet, it's going to smell. But after you wash it, it's become clean. Same thing, sometimes people can get, some pimples on their body, and then pus coming out. Those are all signs of purification. And then once those signs come, then you get really well for a long time. Different signs come. Sometimes, every sign is different to every person. And also sometimes it can bring you emotional. Some negative karma that you have to go through some terrible thing, because whatever negative karma, you have done, you have to go through. And then, it all translate that through the practice of Vajrasattva into, like, let's say, like emotional, something you go through painful, like for a few days or some duration of time. And then it cleanses away all those, obscuration. Or sometimes then, you see in your dream sunshine, and you're washing yourself, and you're flying in the sky. Those are all signs of purification. So various signs will come because profundity of the Dharma, when and then feeling light in your body, feeling healthy in your body. Many different signs will come according to the person's karma, like that. That's through the practice of Vajrasattva. Then after that is the Guru Yoga practice. Now Guru Yoga practice, is kept to the last part, because that's the ultimate, union of the Guru's mind and your mind into oneness. Your Lama, Guru means teacher. Guru is a Sanskrit word, meaning Lama in Tibetan. The meaning is, it's a very heavy meaning. It's like the ground, the earth. Earth can hold everything, with strength. Same thing is like Lama, one who can hold all beings. Like, for example, Bodhisattva mind. Bodhisattva mind is also, there's a metaphor. It's like the earth, that no matter how many houses are built and how many cars goes and how many human being walks, it never the strength is so strong that it never complains, or it never would react in that negative way. Same thing, the mind is mind of the Lama is responsible for holding beings, because that person comes to you with trust and with devotion, and the Lama, true Lama, has to give blessing and protection and guidance according to that. Otherwise, it's heavy karma for the Lama. It's not easy being a Lama. Definitely not easy being a Lama. Being a Lama, one is to liberate the dead consciousness. One is to show the guidance to the living, show the salvation to the dead. So those are very, very heavy responsibility. So unless the Lama is a highly realized Lama, it's definitely very heavy, not easy being a Lama. Anyway, so the Guru Yoga now is left in the last part, where through skillful mean as a wisdom side, wisdom skillful, feminine principle, you visualize yourself into Dakini. The compassionate aspect, skillful mean, that's what true male and female is, a really question of wisdom and compassion. That's what it is. On a grosser level, we see, there's a woman, there's a man, like that. But on the internal level, feminine principle and feminine principle, represent the wisdom part. And the male principle represent the skillful mean, compassionate part. So union of those two is the non-dual awareness. That's what it is. is your awareness. And doesn't mean that, there's a male and a female has to be put together, because your mind actually holds the two clear light. Your mind holds the clear light. Your mind holds the wisdom and compassion always, from primordial time to now and in the future. It's not that, you have to, a woman has to bring a man and man has to bring a woman, it's nothing like that. Your mind. But it's simply metaphor. Guru Yoga practice is a skillful mean where one shall visualize into wisdom of feminine Yishitsogel at that time. Visualize you not as yourself, Yishits. And the Lama in the form of Padmasambhava. And then through tremendous blessing, and finally, the Lama gives you full empowerment. Lama dissolve into light, dissolve into yourself. You also dissolve and remain in natural awareness. See, like that. It's not like a red thread and a black thread, or white thread and a black thread put together. It's nothing like that. It's like oneness. So therefore, these are simple. Short explanation on ngondro practice, because we don't have time now. So like that, and then after that, how to do it. Tara is leading ngondro practice, so you all go through that and read the words of my perfect teacher and read the commentary. So I thought today just generally giving a brief explanation on the Dzogchen lineage, and the three lineage, mind lineage, mind-to-mind lineage, and then the symbolic lineage and oral lineage. So when you receive, is the oral lineage. So that's how the lineage of the, of the Dzogchen lineage happens that way. And you're doing ngondro, because then you can prepare the ground well. Then when the Dzogchen is introduced, you will realize. Otherwise, without doing the ngondro, go to the Dzogchen, you're not going to realize anything. It's self-secret. You will not realize. In fact, sometimes it's danger, hearing Dzogchen teaching without properly, going step by step. Then you get into like this vast emptiness, and then at some point you entertain the idea of emptiness, and that's conceptual. That's not real Dzogchen nature. Then you miss the whole point. So therefore, going step by step is very important, and and really trusting the Lama, and then your own mind, what's the Lama is like the, a physician, who knows how much dose that you need. So if you try to override that, you make your own idea, then it's dangerous also. Even physicians say, don't take medicine without consulting a doctor, Even on that level, they say, then needless to say about your awareness, your mind. So you have to be more careful. Okay, so wonderful. Thank you very much. And so today was Buddha's Day, and I'm happy to give you all this teaching. And so if you have question now, let's go through that.
You also, would you kindly give the transmission for
Okay.
the short video? There's 2 people who are reading.
Yeah, I will give the transmission. So what's the question now?
Okay, the first question is from Tara. Would you please give us a definition of the Sambhogakaya level, the subtle expression level?
Those are Dzogchen teaching, The direct introduction to Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya is Dzogchen teaching. So right now, today, I give a history of Dzogchen, so which masters came, and how they benefit being, and how they liberated like so many countless beings in this world, and happening today too. So therefore, so it was a brief explanation. As far as the Sambhogakaya awareness is concerned, the three kaya, Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya, those are the nature of the mind. And so therefore, that is not part of today's teaching. Today's teaching is explanation in ngondro and the Dzogchen lineage. though I have to give some explanation of the mind-to-mind transmission based on the non-dual. Otherwise, without that, there's no way that we, then we lose the whole ground path and fruition. We have no idea what we are talking about. We need to talk about the ground reality, which is the non-dual transmission, how that happened on the non-dual way from such a high being, from Bhadrasata, Samantabhadra to Vajrasattva to Manjushri, like that. But for ordinary person who is not on that level of non-dual, then we need that oral transmission to achieve that non-dual. Yeah. But as I said, generally, Sambhogakaya means expression. Dharmakaya is the space, Sambhogakaya is the expression, and Nirmanakaya is the union of space and expressions, give the birth to compassion. That's Nirmanakaya.
Second question is from Margot. Rinpoche, would you speak to the Svabhavika Kaya in relation to the three Kayas and how they relate?
Svabhavika Kaya is the fourth Kaya. There are four Kayas, 5 wisdom, 4 Kayas. So Svabhavika Kaya, when we talk about Dharmakaya, though it's all non-dual, but still there is like, first we take the Dharmakaya empowerment, then in other words, we take Vas empowerment, secret empowerment, wisdom empowerment, and Swabhavika Kaya empowerment, the fourth one. And basically is Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya. But then these kayas are not separate, they are oneness. Swabhavika Kaya, when we take the fourth empowerment, even the notion of body, speech, and mind separation no longer exists on the Swabhavika Kaya level, because we still have a subtle grasping to mind. We think Dhammakaya means like a big space. Sambhogakaya means there is some expression arising. Nirmanakaya is a mixture of the Dhammakaya and the, and the Sambhogakaya. So you see, we have conceptual. The Swabhavika Kaya, when the Lama dissolve into 5 lights and dissolve into you, and you also dissolve and just remain in natural, uncontrived state. So that at that time there is no, conceptual, dualistic separation of body, speech, and mind. They're just one in nature. So that's the Swabhavika Kaya, ultimate non-dual state. So uncontrived. At that time, uncontrived, once you take the 4 empowerment, then you have to remain in an uncontrived state.
There's a small delay, so wait just one, if you don't mind.
Okay.
If anyone has any other questions, now's the time to ask.
Also, there is a book by His Holiness. It's called the Ningmah School of Tibetan Buddhism. It's a pretty big book by His Holiness Dudjom Rinpoche, translated by Gurme Dorje, an English guy. And though the words are very tough, I feel, but for maybe not for you, because your first language is English, but if you read like several times, you may get a good understanding, because this really has like the lineage of mind lineage, space lineage, then oral lineage, then Mahayoga lineage, Anuyoga lineage, Ati Yoga lineage, Dzogchen master, many things. So this will really, historically, it will give you a good perspective of Dharma history and a good grasp. So it'll be good to read that. Do we have this in the library? Yeah, so we have in the library also, So it's good to read that.
Rinpoche, one question from Jordan. Is it best to meditate before, during, or after we do our ngondro practice?
So when during ngondro, you have to do after, at the end. Once you take the Swabhavika Kaya empowerment, the Lama dissolve into you, and you also dissolve, remain in that state. That is the meditation. This is not shamatha meditation. This is Dzogchen meditation at that time. And of course, you request tremendous devotion. Devotion is like pure heart. You see, anything to receive, you need a pure heart. You can't have like a partial heart, half open, half not open. You have a lot of doubt, it's not going to work. You need like drop the whole neurotic, dualistic world and just really bring the non-dual, with devotion opens your heart and you receive it, and without any doubt, like you fall in love, without any doubt, so to speak, and then one-to-one. And then you remain in that, just example. So if you try to think, okay, it will work or not, what is this, what is that, too much contrived, too much conceptual, it's not going to work. So there's a saying, enlightenment can be achieved either someone really great scholar or someone who is not very intelligent. In Tibet they use the example like the nomads who cow herders, who have never got any education, and so they go in the mountains with their cows. And then, someone like that, you tell them they believe anything. He's not all of them, but many times they eat. And then it's like a blind faith, and and then they just go one-pointedly what the Lama says, and then meditate, they get enlightened. So because they're lucky to meet the enlightened one and having faith in that, so therefore they can achieve enlightenment. Otherwise you have to be so great scholar, and then able to define. Of course, doesn't have to be that great a scholar, but it's said that if you're a great scholar, then it's easy to get enlightened, or someone who is like, who doesn't have too much thought. But in between, who a lot of doubt, this and that, then always will remain in the struggling, conflicting mindset. So it's very difficult. So when you do Vajrayana practice, you should drop the whole thing. Just do it. When you do study, you do study. When you do meditate, you meditate accordingly. Then you will get the benefit. While you are meditating, you try to study and analyze too much. And while you are studying, you try to meditate. You're doing the wrong thing. So when you study, study. When you are reflecting, when you do meditation, just meditate. Then you will see the, each benefit. So meditation, in this case, is the last part, not before the ngondro. Then you just remain, take the full empowerment, remain in meditation, and then it will clear by itself. That's the thing. You don't have to think. Your thinking is the one, which will block, obscure. You just remain inseparable, dissolve the Lama's mind into yourself, Padmasambhava Lama into yourself. Remain, trust in your natural abiding mind. Trusting in your natural abiding mind will do the magic by itself. Any other question?
Yes, Rinpoche, two. Would you please talk about the 4 powers during the Bhadrasata practice?
4 powers is, as I usually say, our ordinary way of dealing with emotion, you need to have a much more powerful emotion than the existing emotion. And then when you apply that more powerful emotion, then that overrides that emotion. So that's how the nature of relative conventional reality, conventional truth works. So, for example, if you have done a harm to some being, and then the harm can be only stopped if you regret that, if you repent that. But if you do not repent and do not regret, you will keep doing it again and again. So therefore, it says Bhadrasata practice. When you do Bhadrasata, even you feel guilty, that's fine. It's good actually. It's good because you feel guilty, and so next time you're not going to do that. And then you can move forward. So, but it's not that, you should feel guilty all the time. I'm not saying guilt trip is a good thing. Just keeping guilty without any method to how to deal with it, then it's just problem. It's like, just having compassion and no wisdom. It's like, then you scratch your head and say, oh my goodness, what can I do? What to do and what can I do? You're stuck with that two language all the time. No resolution. You see, so therefore you need the wisdom. Same thing in, dealing with the Vajrasattva practice. There are two levels of Vajrasattva practice. One is dealing on the ultimate level of Vajrasattva, and one is on the relative level of Vajrasattva. Relative level of Vajrasattva requires that emotional reflection. Supposing you have done harm to someone, you need to reflect that. And you need to really see that what right or wrong you did, that we all were told to do, actually. But then, some people just get guilty, never find any way, beat themselves up. That's no good. So, but you must, at the beginning, yes, there's some level of guilt, some level of repentance, some level of and then you ask for forgiveness, or then you really try to change yourself, and particularly in this case is Vajrasattva, bringing more powerful, to that. You're not trying to ignore, or you're not trying to, hide behind something, but you're actually seeing that what you have done harm, and now you're truly purifying that through the metta of Vajrasattva. And then, as I said, the sign of purification will come. So therefore, even you feel emotion, that's okay, it's part of that. But then finally, when you finish the Vajrasattva sadhana, is visualization and practice, at the end then Vajrasattva dissolve into light, dissolve into yourself, and then again you go to uncontrived state. Now that doesn't mean that one time you go to uncontrived state, all your obscurations are purified. You may have to do this quite a while, because we have a lot of bad karma from so many lifetimes. It may take a little while, but actually it will give you, you can able to see that, but you will also feel like, transcended from that. You're not like caught in a depression. You could transcend it. At the same time, you will be able to deal much better next time with the world's other situation. Yeah.
Thanks, Rinpoche. One more question. Rinpoche from Yola. Rinpoche, please clarify the visualization during the recitation of the short Vajrasattva mantra.
Now, short Vajrasattva, once the Vajrasattva dissolve into you, that's what I was saying earlier. There are two parts of Vajrasattva. One is the absolute level of Vajrasattva, and one is the relative level of Vajrasattva. So once you dissolve Vajrasattva after doing the long Vajrasattva, but in the short Vajrasattva practice, there's only the short Vajrasattva mantra. I don't think there's the long Vajrasattva mantra in the short ngondro practice. There's a long one? Okay. So then if there's a long, first you do the long one. Then after that, the Vajrasattva, in the long one I remember, he said, then the Vajrasattva says, oh, son of the noble family, or daughter of the noble family, now all your obscurations are purified. And Vajrasattva happily looking and gazing at you. And then you also, feel like purified and clear. And then Vajrasattva dissolve into light, and then dissolve into you, and then you become Vajrasattva. Now, at that time, what does it mean that you become Vajrasattva? For, at that time, now you remain in uncontrived state. You remain in uncontrived state, and then say, Om Vajrasattva. Now yourself, because Vajrasattva is the expression of non-dual awareness. Remember, in the Kirim practice, in the deity practice, there's the visualization of the deity, which is called the Nampa Selva, to visualize clearly every aspect of the form, from the eye to eyebrow to nose to mouth, everything. And then the next part is called Thakpa Tempa, remembering the purity. That is the most important. Remembering the purity means Vajrasattva, for example, the union expression, bell and Vajra. Bell symbolize skillful mean, bell symbolize emptiness, and Vajra symbolize skillful mean. Emptiness, the union of emptiness and skillful mean is the primordial non-dual mind. That is what symbolized. And also the union symbolized oneness of that wisdom and compassion, male principle and female principle. The Vajrasattva, 3 mouths symbolize 3 kayas. All the goals Vajrasattva is wearing, enlightened mind is like a rich awareness. It's not like nothing. It's like a rich awareness which can benefit infinite beings, such as the qualities of Vajrasattva. So each one of them, there's a meaning, the peaceful expression as well as wrathful expression. So therefore, sometimes you can visualize, yourself into Vajrasattva, saying, Om Bhadrasata, Om Bhadrasata, Om Bhadrasata. Sometimes you remain in meditation, no thoughts, no concept, just remain in natural. Say, Om Bhadrasata, Om Bhadrasata. And then sometimes light emanating from you, and that all beings' negative karmas are purified, and they all transform into Vajrasattva, and all at the same time reciting Vajrasattva, like a thunderous sound in the sky, like when the thunder sound is so big, like a jet sound or like a thunder sound, then Om Bhadrasata, Om Bhadrasata, Om Bhadrasata, everyone reciting. That's very powerful. There's a saying that, just thinking of doing one mantra at a time, it wouldn't really make a huge difference. But through visualization, after all, is the mind, how you deal with it. Through visualization, when you deal with not only one person reciting, but first of all, the light emanates to all beings, purify their body, speech, and mind, negative karma. And they are all transformed into Vajrasattva. The entire universe is reciting Om Vajrasattva. All the sound of the element, fire, element of fire, element of wind, element of whatever sound, car sound, motorcycle sound, human sounds, whatever, all sound into like Om Bhadrasata, Om Bhadrasata, like a vibration of thunder, then it's very powerful. Then you're able to use the skillful mean of you get the benefit of billions of recitation of mantra. Instead of thinking, I am myself one person doing Om Bhadrasata, Om Bhadrasata, Om Bhadrasata. You see, there's the difference. So therefore, that's how the tantra becomes so skillful mean. How you bring and we will say, how does that make sense? Because everyone is enlightened Buddha nature. Everyone is Vajrasattva in reality. So therefore, when you bring that quality, that energy, it truly benefits all of them in oneself. Yeah.
Thank you, Rinpoche. That's all the questions, I
Okay.
believe.
So then I will give transmission now, short ngondro transmission.
Nama lama tengi goma nama yen, darje nirishin tengi burka, keze me de chibuchi, gede leki jinto luwa me, kamsa ngura dunga kiasunga, tenen talo. Shola gyurwa sho, tisun shishin mwa mata para lama kujo sona kebzu che, tani zunda kura mata para maji sumje kunga pende tu. Serap kunga liu dangno jo pe, sonye zuje kunjo sumla bul, chiwa lama duzi, sonye zuje kunjo sona bul, chiwa lama, sonye zuje kunjo sona bul, chiwa lama duzi yime pe, kule duzi jibo dibja anjur. Om medar, Bejarsuru Samaya, Manupalaya, Benjarsu Tenuba, Tirodiru Mepova, Sudu Kaye Mepova, Subu Kaye Mepova, Anurato Mepova, Sarvasiti Meprayetsa, Sarva Karmasita Mesitam Shiriyam Kuruhum, Ha Ha Ho, Bhagavan, Sarvatata Benzer. Mame Munja Benjarba, Masamaya Satu, Bejarsatu, Bejarsatu, Bejarsatu. Oju, Bejarsatu, 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 Bejarsatu. Ummedarsatu, 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 Ojo Dana Dante Rochi Gur. Ranya de Jena Jitangoro, Savelama Bemeko Jinjuru to some Sanja Mone de Beko, Savelama Chorosovati, the Japartas, to some Gijim Single, Mambazagore Pema City, whom Kusun to Gemonjin Zoto, Penzaguru Kaya Bacasita, CD whom. Nama ujuro de menga ridun to gela mera jita gumbo ba mela suwate salam po waju berjingelo danilu dano joge derje ma juro da papa me bada de dano jingi me do para show. Okay. In the world in general, in this nation, may not even the names disease, famine, war, and suffering be heard. May virtues, qualities, and merit and prosperity greatly increase, and may continuous good fortune and sublime well-being perfectly rise. In the world in general, and in this nation, may not even the names disease, famine, war, and suffering be heard. May virtues, qualities, and merit and prosperity greatly increase, and may continuous good fortune and sublime well-being perfectly rise. In the world in general, and in this nation, may not even the names disease, famine, war, and suffering be heard. May virtues, qualities, and merit and prosperity greatly increase, and may continuous good fortune and sublime well-being perfectly rise. By this merit, may all beings become omniscient, thus defeat the neurosis,
and negative actions,
and negative
which
action,
are the
enemies.
From the turbulent waves
Waves
of
of birth, old age, sickness, and death.
from the ocean of cyclic
cyclic
existence, may all beings be liberated.
First Chhoje Rinpoche 1. Kuzan tuki tempe zinji niktu shitu yazen luze pa palde lama kalgira shabden dunye lundu tashi palparasho kuzan tuki tempe zinji niktu shitu yazen luze pa palde lama kalgira shabden dunye lundu tashi palparasho kuzan tuki tempe zinji niktu shitu yazen luze pa Palde lama kalgira shabde ne dunye lundu tashi palbarasho.
Om Swasti, holding the treasury of the teachings of Samantabhadra's heart, raising the victory banner of study and practice amidst this time of degeneration, glorious Guru, may your feet remain firm, and may the two purposes be naturally accomplished and auspiciousness increase. That was Chhoje Rinpoche's long life prayer. This is long life prayer for Chhoje Rinpoche in English. Om Swasti, the indestructible self-born essence of Amitayus, primordially uncharacterized by either birth or death, by the truth of the fundamental purity of phenomenality itself, may the supreme guide of beings, the victorious one, may he live a long life. With the unobstructed creativity of the Vajra clouds of highest ecstasy, expanding through space the skillful dance of Mayajala, with the truth of the spontaneity of interdependent phenomena, may the supreme guide of beings, the victorious one, may he live a long life. With the fearlessness, wisdom, and kindness, which is the power of primordial awareness, the essence of the precise secret teachings of the Vajrayana, the wish-fulfilling jewel, the victorious banner of teaching, practice, and action is raised to the pinnacle. May he live long as he fulfills the aspirations and wishes of living beings, sounding the Dharma as a conch shell trumpet with the auspicious pattern of a right-handed spiral, causing the essence to enter the ears of many beings of the three habitats, above, on the surface, and below the earth. Accomplishing the spread of virtue victoriously in all directions, may this fortunate supreme guide and sovereign live a long life. May the Lama Vidyadhara live for 100 eons, victorious in the war against adverse inner and outer obstacles, spontaneously accomplishing vast intentions of great value to the Dharma and living beings. May this most excellent auspicious vision pervade forever.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
So then, now, please read the words of my perfect teacher, and then His Holiness Dudjom Rinpoche's commentary on the ngondro practice, and the Ningmah school of Tibetan Buddhism. I will recommend you that to have more history of the Dharma. You know, there's a saying that you know, history is important to know, because then you know what you're doing. You know, people always ask you know, even you get a medicine, you say, what's the history of it? You know, how many people get benefit from it? Same thing, we need to know the Dharma history, particularly the Dzogchen lineage, which is so profound. Then you can see how the transmission has happened to this day. So, okay, so wonderful. Thank you very much. You all take good care of yourself, and put on mask when you go out. Be careful, because you know, for one's own protection and for the protection and benefit of others. And please pray for the world peace and pandemic to end, and prosperity in this world. And I hold all of you in my prayer, and make your life a really worth life. You know, watch your mind all the time, because this is this mind which makes samsara, as well as this can lead us to liberation. So do the right thing which will lead you to that liberation. Okay? Thank you very much.